Are we live? D-Link. Boy. Back with Just Chilling Radio, where I explore the internet, entertain ideas, topics of all sorts. Usually my interests. I usually go on YouTube, and I'm not logged in, but it is picking up algorithm now of what I usually like to watch on the guest page of YouTube. Data. I'm assuming companies now, whenever they start like websites or sell through websites, delivering or like selling their products through their own website, I'm pretty sure they collect data that I'm not sure if they have control over to sell and to profit off of. Is that how it works? We could look into it, but yeah. Oh shit. Oopsie poopsie. I was logged in. We were watching this shit the other day.
The
It's just
intention
pretty
of
tight.
Afros NYC was to celebrate these female athletes in a huge, spectacular way.
Now, what I'd like to do is show some slides. May I have this?
Yes.
What is this?
Just show some
Eyes of
slides. This is
Cinema.
very, very quick about
Posting the classics.
some of the drawings that have been done, some of the faces. Now, I told you the story about the man whose only recollection was a dread of a certain stretch of highway. One of the major, a dread of a certain place is very common.
A dread.
This is a drawing made by Ted
Oh.
Jacobs, who I also introduced to Whitley Strieber, and he had Ted do the drawing for his.
The eyes don't look so over exaggerated. Like how I would draw it as like a young kid, or always see it as a young kid. Of course, there are different types: the bug-eyed, praying mantis-looking aliens.
Cover of his book is a pastel, but the man that I had been describing had Ted make the drawings of these figures. Now it's interesting, almost everybody, when they finish the drawing or have the drawing done, they look at it and say, it's sort of right, but it's not quite right. It never seems to be exactly on target. It's an odd thing. But that's a typical example. Now, this we'll have to get back a little bit to see together. The drawing on the right was done by Kathy Davis. The one on the left was drawn by a woman from North Carolina who had a UFO experience. When I was giving a lecture one time and showed that slide.
This one looks so realistic. Compared to something like this that I would probably be able to draw. Nah, I wouldn't. That's really good still. It's a better depiction. But in this one, the eyes bulge out all the way to the side. Could be over exaggeration, right? Or like just heat of the moment, like what the fuck is that? Versus this person who took a good look at him. They must be an artist. Clearly, look. You can see the eyelid, not the eyelids. You can see the eyebrows, the lips of the eyes, the stress marks underneath, the little nose, jawline, little head, little skull structure. Shit looks crazy.
The woman who had made the drawing on the left had never seen the one on the right, and she took one look at the two together and came up to me after the lecture, and tears are running down her face, and she
That's
said
crazy.
how shocked, horrified she'd been when she saw this. She said, you know, but I don't want to believe that happened to me, that it really happened to me. But seeing the figure on the right sort of cemented to her the idea that they're being so similar that, in fact, she had encountered these people. We're describing figures, again, who are roughly, the descriptions run from very small, 3 feet or so, to maybe up to almost 5 feet. This is a drawing involving a case in Canada.
Look at its eyes on the side.
And the woman gave us a nice side view to show that the eyes wrapped around the side. Now, her conscious recollection...
Wrapped around the sides. That's like some robot shit. Am I tripping for saying that? That looks like a robot. What the fuck? Like little slots you could take out to repair. Cyborg, little. Maybe lenses? They could be lenses over the real eyes. That looks crazy.
Her abduction is interesting. She remembered, and this is part of the vagaries of recollection in these cases. It's as if the wiping out of the memory is an imperfect science as far as they're concerned. They seem to be able to block the memory, but not always exactly. This woman remembered...
Certain drugs, like I've heard of dragon's breath. I forgot where it's popular at. I want to say like South America, Brazil or some shit like that. It's like a powdered plant. Like they blow it in your face. And you pretty much become a zombie, and like you tell people to like empty out their apartments. And like load it into their truck, and they just drive away and be like, goodbye. Thanks for giving us your shit. What else is there? There's a bunch of other shit. Freaking, what do I want to say? I've had procedures in hospitals where they give you like fentanyl to like, even like dental work, they give you fentanyl. They gave that, and they said you'd be like in a twilight. Like when I was sitting there, it just felt like a weird like like a weird like alien abduction. I was thinking to myself like, this is what alien abductions probably feel like. No different from a doctor.
Maybe they don't want to.
Maybe they don't want to, but it's worked in a very odd way where one man had an abduction experience.
Then we can get into like governments. It's not being alien extraterrestrials, it's just being human beings. Secret experiments. And they got like really good drugs to like sedate you and make you feel doozy, woozy, and all that other shit.
A period of about 2 hours, but subsequently he forgot all the events of the whole week. It's as if, and yet.
Let's look into it. First alien sighting. Recording. Let's just look it up and see what it says. 1561. Yeah, I knew it would go far back. Reported in the U.S. (1947). That's flying UFOs. Of course, we get Roswell, which was in the 47, like the 40s too. But then we get into like MK Ultra. That's why I get into like drugs, sedation drugs. Because MK Ultra included like drugs, psychedelic drugs, Drugs that make you hallucinate, as well as be like sedated in a state. I mean, you could look at tweakers, homeless people, tweakers. They're always like in a sedated, like twilight state and like in a dream state, hallucinating and all that other crazy stuff. It's MK Ultra right in our faces. Straight up. We can go into the CIA supplying drugs on the streets and all that other stuff. Crazy shit. This is 1947. This is like in the United States. Like alien, UFO. Of course, Roswell was UFO, but they said they found bodies. There's conspiracies that like they found the bodies, some live occupants interviewed them and all this other stuff. Who knows how true that is? 1947. Could we associate UFO sightings, alien abductions, to MK Ultra experiments or like other drug experiments conducted on civilians, unknowingly conducted on civilians by the government and military? Usually military science and all that other shit. And CIA and getting FBI. When was the CIA created? Created. You get a Project Bluebeam, which is like hologram, a faking alien invasion, in order to create all the governments in the world to unite as one government against the false enemy. A holographic, like, right? Where's the CIA? 1947? World War II Office of Strategic Force Services, OSS, previous. World War II. Nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons, World War II. Not just that, like crazy technology being made apart from nukes. What was fusion or fission energy? Mm, 1938. Yeah, the World War II. Fucking crazy. Of course, with the nuclear energy, nuclear weapons. '47. When President Harry S. Truman signed the National Security Act of '47 into law. CIA. Interesting. What about the FBI? FBI might be younger, I feel. 1908. Never mind, the FBI is old as fuck. Nah, but the CIA is like on a different level. FBI is international, I think, too, but I feel like the CIA is more international. On some top secret level shit. We go back to the CIA because then we're gonna MK Ultra. which is kind of real and kind of conspiracy, I guess you can say. It is real, was an illegal human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the U.S. Central CIA to develop procedures and identify drugs. Yep. 1953, MK Ultra. And that's around the time where, like, the Betty Hill sightings, right? '61. Never mind. But then again, MK Ultra could still be going on as we know it.
Yet he was going about his business. He went to work. He came home. His family were in touch with him and so forth. But it's as if they gave him a little overdose of anesthetic.
Who knows? I believe in extraterrestrials, but then I believe in extraterrestrials being demonic origins, supernatural beings, aliens. Who knows? Maybe they are aliens from space. Beings from different planets, maybe. That'd be pretty badass.
And took everything else with it, along with the abduction experience. But this woman awoke. She was, I believe, 8 or 9 years old. I've forgotten. She woke up in the middle of the night in a farm near Toronto, outskirts. Found herself absolutely compelled to go downstairs and go outside. And she walked out not knowing where she was going and walked down a road. She knew exactly where she had to go. Walked up a field and she saw this illuminated square form against a black mass, and it turned out to be a doorway and an object, and there were these two little people standing there, and she knew that she had to walk right inside, again, as if she was compelled. And she remembers that they said, now this is all conscious recollection, that she was to get on this table. And she took one look at the table and this implication of helplessness and so forth, and said, no way am I getting on that table. And the next thing she knew, she was walking back up the road to the house.
What the fuck?
And she remembered all of that consciously. Of course, the part she didn't remember is that she ended up on the table. Many times people think that they have won this little battle, and in fact they haven't.
Take a look. This lady is already 58 years old, but she still looks young. It's not because they have money, but because of this product. This gem does
ripping up the big ribs. Look at her. Nothing like a fat dab. Cure the wrinkles. Nothing like that good wax, that good resin. Or rosin. The rosin, bruh. Clear out the pores, the smoke. Cough out the smoke from your pores.
Doesn't require any mixing and is easy to use.
This is a drawing, a three-quarter
E.T.
head, and this is a case in Erie,
That looks like
Pennsylvania.
E.T.
This woman awoke she'd had many experiences. It's quite complex, but one rather bizarre one. She awoke hearing a strange sound outside the window, and there was a tree branch outside. She remembered the tree branches shaking and jumping, and as if she heard something walking on the roof. Then the next thing she knew, she was back in bed and had no recollection of what happened, except that the branches were broken. There was something very strange that had occurred. Under hypnosis, the craft had come directly down next to the window, her bedroom window, second-story window. She was taken out the window into the craft, and under hypnosis, the way the scene ended, they put her back on the windowsill, the second-story window, and she remembered sitting on the windowsill and watching this thing moving away, and then looking around and realizing that here she is in her nightgown up there. How did she get there, as the memory had been taken away? This is interesting because it's a three-quarter head, and we don't have too many of those. Now, this is a little sculpture by Kathy Davis, the central figure in Intruders. And,
that's like an Oscar.
She made it of ceramic afterwards, and we had a
looks like an award I'll get slapped over.
Meeting once of our support group, and Kathy had brought this along, and she had it sitting on a little counter, And when the first couple of abductees walked in, everybody sort of jumped looking at it, didn't like looking at it. And finally, a woman who was rather fiery of temperament marched straight over to it and wrapped both her hands around its skinny little neck, and it went like that. And it was enormous. Everybody felt this great sense of relief. But I said it was their thought, but they were still afraid to go over. And incidentally, the kind of terror that people feel is so unreasoning to someone who hasn't had the experience. One man who's a very big, burly man said to me, "Bud, if I were in my bed and I have a gun on my bed table and I saw them come in the door," which had happened to him in his bedroom, and the gun was there, he said, "I'd pick up the gun and kill myself."
Not them.
Not them, himself. Because the terror was that great.
But you just said it had happened to him?
This had actually happened without the gun.
I wonder what happens
at the time.
Bro, if you did that, they would probably squad up and fucking blast your ass with the fucking finest ray weapon. They'd just be like, what the fuck? They probably don't even, they just point their finger at you and be like,
one detail, but I mean, that's the...
Or just be like, and freeze your ass, and you'd be like, fuck. And they just pick your ass up and throw you out the window or against the wall.
The level of terror, and I've heard this from other cases, and I have at least 3 cases where I'm absolutely convinced that a person was tipped over the edge into suicide because of their UFO experience. It's that level of terror is very, very powerful. Now, the thing about the Kathy Davis head, which
I feel like it could be, they lead to suicide. It could be because the fear of them being like a target, pretty much, or feeling like or having the knowledge like you're being watched. Not only watched, but like taken while you're sleeping. That shit's so creepy.
Which is really kind of charming. I said, "Kathy, why do you have the head inclined back, looking like that?" And she said, "Well, that's why I always see him. He's only this big, and he's always looking up at me." It's realism. This is a case, a drawing of a case that occurred actually in the Bronx, New York. I have within Manhattan itself some abductions. A craft has come down perfectly black, dark at night, right above a building, and a person has taken up a beam right out through their apartment building or whatever.
Dude, in the Bronx and nobody sees this? That's one thing I want to get at. Okay, if they do that, how did they get away with not being seen? That's why it's like supernatural. Is it like can only be seen by the people they target? Or like people with special like abilities or who knows what? Fucking weird.
One case, a man and his sister, whose parents, incidentally, are the father is extremely well known in theatrical areas. The father and mother were putting Christmas presents under the tree and so on and so forth, and suddenly this man, the abductee I was working with his sister, they were a little tiny, perhaps 3 and 5 years old, were just somehow floated out of their beds into the room where the parents were, and the parents were frozen, unable to move, and as if they're in suspended animation. We get this in many cases. And this man and as a boy and his sister were taken up a beam of light into the craft.
As I was saying, that's what they do. They freeze time for specific people. And a lot of the abduction stories I've heard and listened to, they always talk about weird time jumps where they either skip time, hours or even days ahead, don't even realize it. Or be like taking on like crazy journeys on the abductions. Would only be like a couple minutes, some weird shit like that.
And under hypnosis,
There's a lot of accounts where people say this UFOs look small on the outside, but when they walk inside, it's like giant. Like large facility, like crazy building
It was
size.
extraordinarily touching because his sister was on another table and she was being
on some Snoopy shit.
Examined and was crying, and he was trying to comfort her, even though he was only, say, 5 years old or 6 years old. But when he first got in this place, not knowing what was happening, it was Christmas Eve, under hypnosis, and this is a grown man reliving it as if he were a child. There's this long silence, and he suddenly says, "Where's Santa Claus?" and bursts into tears, sobbing and sobbing. He knew that somehow it was magical. It had some property of, he didn't know whether it was Santa Claus was involved or what. But at any rate, this drawing was made by a man whose experience, a different person, occurred in the Bronx, New York. I had people from all the boroughs of New York City.
What do you think of this selection process?
Keep
Obviously,
your
these
wife's
people
name
are chosen and
pre-selected.
And could they be of descendants of an evolution or even reincarnated of individuals who had been with those spacecraft 10,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago?
I suppose anything is possible. We have tried to do psychological testing of varying sorts, interviews and so on, to look for any patterns in these people. The patterns that we've gotten psychologically are very similar, according to psychologists, of the sorts of deficits that turn up in tests done with rape victims. A sense of lowered self-esteem, a sense of great fear about the outer world, and a sense of not trusting their own bodies, their own physical...
Well, we can get into like the probing or the experiments done on them. I myself, being somebody going through a lot of like medical procedures and currently dealing with medical conditions. So you deal with a lot of checkups of doctors, touching you in places that may be uncomfortable, or doing things to you that are really painful or uncomfortable, like needles, tubes in your nose, throat, body, wherever, you know. It could be demoralizing. Just something about the naked body, right? Being exposed unwillingly or like having no choice. Being forced either by somebody or a situation. I'm thinking of like prisoners too. Like being forced to strip down, bend over, get checked by. These are the cops doing this to the prisoners, by the way. Don't even forget about what the prisoners will do to you. But still, crazy.
Have you ever taken a subject and regressed?
Especially side sleepers. So I almost made the dumbest mistake of my life. I got this contour pillow called Dorilla Ergo. Honestly.
Someone who's had multiple abductions to the next previous lifetime and gone back to see if in that incarnation they had also been abducted.
I've never gotten involved in doing past life hypnosis. I take my mysteries one at a time.
Yeah, they show one more photo. It's a lot of good. It's a lot of good talking. I don't know if I should just watch
When asked the question of, why were you chosen? Why is anybody chosen? Her response was that
this was in '88. So these people who are talking probably experienced these things in their childhood. It's probably like the 60s, 50s, 70s. Yeah, it's 56. This is around, the creation of many things. CAA, MK Ultra, the programs, many other programs, experimentations, and all that crazy shit.
They told her that they could tune in easier to certain kinds of people.
I feel like there are real accounts of aliens. But then I feel like the government took advantage of aliens and aliens abductions, and they used that as a scapegoat for their own experimentation. and they mimic alien abductions through drugs, costumes, really good animatronics, maybe even too. As long as you're drugged up, it may be convincing enough, you know? Robots, all that other crazy shit. Crazy technology the government might have but not telling us yet. Sounds crazy as fuck.
And others, implying that there's some kind of electromagnetic or other way of monitoring people to see who they can control or communicate with or whatever. Have you heard that kind of thing? It's from the same woman you talked about before.
The fourth kind is free with dads on YouTube right now.
From an alien any more than I would believe anything.
I didn't like that one. That one wasn't that good, to be real. The third kind was a really good movie. I like it. Do these have good photos? I like the photos a lot. The stories are good too, but the photos are really cool. Eyes of Cinema, check out their page. They have a lot of OG stuff. First set of her footage of Adam's bonding. What? Oh, what the fuck? Should I click on it? That looks crazy. Isn't that what fission? Isn't that what fusion energy is? Because I think fission's the breaking down. Combining atoms to form larger nucleus, releasing energy in the process. Yeah, that's fusion energy. That's crazy. It's 5 years ago. Oh, okay, that makes sense. They say by 2030, fusion energy would be commercial, replacing fission, nuclear fission energy. Decaying. That's the decaying, that's the unhealthy, that's the dangerous. Those are the dangerous plants like 2011 and all that other stuff. Introduction. Alright, check out it. Be inspired. What the hell is this?
Hey, everything costs more these days.
Well, G-Fiber hasn't raised their price.
Wait, what? How is that even possible?
I would like to confess that I've been asked to cut about 2/3 of my speech out and deliver as short a speech as possible. You are free to believe me or to disbelieve, but please take my word on it that I am not joking. This is very serious, a matter of importance.
This is the recording some believe cost him his life. In September 1977, the writer Philip K. Dick spoke to an audience in France. They expected science fiction. What he said, instead, revealed too much about reality and drew the attention of the CIA and FBI, changing his life forever.
The subject of this speech is a topic which has been discovered recently. A breaching, a tinkering, a change had been made, but not in our present, had been made in our past. A variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off, became actualized.
Bro, this dude's talking about multiverse time travel. So what he's saying, someone went back in time, fucked some shit up. This is where we're gonna get the Mandela effect. This is why everyone's being like, wait, maybe the world around changed. The program in the world around changed. But maybe certain people's programming didn't really change. They remember like the old shit. Fucking crazy.
Instead of the prior one, and that in fact, in literal fact, we are once more living this particular segment of linear time.
He said this in 77. Back in 77.
CIA and FBI had taken his work years earlier. That's when you know he may have spoken too much.
In March of 74, the CIA opened my mail. The FBI had a file on me. I've seen both.
What the fuck?
But the cops were watching everything I did. And I was correct. And I was told the house was being watched. And that eventually my house would be hit, my files would be opened, my papers would be taken, and so it came to pass. When I came home and found my house consisting of nothing but rubble, ruin, chaos, broken windows, smashed doorknobs, blown open files.
A few years later, he suddenly dies, right before the premiere of Blade Runner, June 1982. The film adaptation of his novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
That was his novel? Dude was ahead of his time. Let me find out the time travel he's talking about. What they changed in the past. Who's to say they didn't travel to the future as well and collected some? That's fucking crazy.
Fans said it was strange that the author who had predicted so many modern themes about AI, identity, and reality never got to see the movie that would finally make him widely famous. What's strange to me is that he was only writing science fiction, yet the FBI and CIA started watching him. To me, that means he was touching information never meant for the public. That's what caught my attention. So listen carefully to what comes next. I know attention spans are...
A person becomes a threat when they make people or influence people. Not necessarily right in your face up front about it, but through certain art, like music, for example. We could talk about Tupac, the conspiracies about him being killed, because of what he spoke about in his music. Crazy shit. Stanley Kubrick, Eyes Wide Shut, he died right before that movie came out. Didn't he? I could be wrong.
Are short, but trust me, this video...
They edited the movie, and I heard he was pissed.
Will give you chills.
So we never got the final cut.
We are accustomed to supposing that all change takes place along the linear time axis, from past to present to future. The present is an accrual of the past and is different from it. The future will accrue from the present on and be different yet. That an orthogonal or right-angled time axis could exist, a lateral domain in which change takes place, processes occurring sideways in reality, so to speak, this is almost impossible to imagine. How would we perceive such lateral changes? What would we experience? What clues, if we are trying to test out this bizarre theory, should we be on the alert for? In other words, how can change take place outside of linear time at all, in any sense, to any degree?
Philip tries to make this strange idea easier to understand with a simple picture. Imagine a painting on a wall. Instead of replacing the whole painting, the servants secretly change details on the same canvas. They remove a tree, add a girl, shift small elements. When the owner looks at it, he sees something new, yet also familiar. His brain struggles. It's the same painting, but also not the same. Dick uses this example to suggest that reality might be altered in subtle ways, not fully replaced.
Yep, he's getting into that right now.
Contemplating this possibility of a lateral arrangement of worlds, a plurality of over...
Pretty tired. I'm not in the mood, bro. College. Work. I don't know, I got a lot on my mind. Later.